Welcome to Mental Health Dumpster Fire. My name is Courtney Lauver, licensed clinical social worker.
And I am Jess Miller, art therapist.
We are therapists, and we have opinions on topics, and we're going to share them with you.
Woo!
You can follow us online. I am Lauver Listens on Instagram and Facebook.
And I am the Artsy Brain on Instagram and Facebook.
And we also have our own show social media now, too. We are on TikTok and Instagram at Mental Health Dumpster Fire, I believe.
Yeah, no one took the name, so.
Links are somewhere.
They're in the description bio. They're somewhere on here.
Yes.
You can find it.
Yeah. Follow us. This podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. It's not a replacement for therapy. We can't give you specific advice or clinical services via this podcast or our social media. And that's it. So, bye. Just kidding. We're starting
We're done.
now.
All done.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Enjoying this weather. It's been so hot and humid lately. And now today it actually just feels just warm.
Yay.
And sunny. So that's nice.
I love it.
Do some outside time today.
Yeah, get some vitamin D.
Woo woo.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine. I have been procrastinating a lot, so I'm drinking caffeine to hopefully not procrastinate the rest of the day. I made a playlist for energizing myself, and I'm going to try to get some stuff done today.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
I love making playlists for like different motivation type things.
Yeah.
Like study or cleaning the house or whatever I need to do.
Right. Yeah. And I'm going to go and see Inside Out 2 tonight.
I saw it yesterday.
You did?
It's so good.
Well, I think next week maybe we should do a review and like a processing as therapists of what we thought.
Oh, I love that idea.
Because I love the first one. I use it all the time.
Down. Yes, I do too. So I used to have, they're lost now after moving so many times, but I used to have the little figures from the first one, and I use them all the time. But
yeah.
They're missing now. I need new ones.
Yeah, I'm in a sand tray Facebook group.
Yeah.
And they sold like the miniature, like a set of the miniatures of all of them from the first and the second, but I heard that they were like super delicate, and then when kids tried to play with them, like the heads came off, and I was like, well, that's not good. And they were like the official sold by Disney. It's like, Disney,
do better.
Come on, you've got the money to make these durable.
You know how to make toys.
Yeah,
you've been around forever.
Yeah. So then other people were in the comments were saying like, oh yeah, the McDonald's Happy Meal ones are better, you should go get those.
Okay. Well, I gotta go get Happy Meals now, I guess.
I don't know. I haven't had a Happy Meal in forever. I wish you could just ask for the toys.
So sometimes I go to McDonald's. I'm a vegetarian. I get the Happy Meal with chicken nuggets, give the nuggets to my dog, and then I eat the fries, and then we keep the toy. I know you don't have a dog, but
I do sometimes. If I get chicken nuggets at McDonald's, I'll take the bread off and I'll give a little bit of the chicken to the kittens.
Yeah. It's not like the healthiest food, but I just want the
McDonald's.
toy.
Yeah.
And my dog likes chicken nuggets, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So if you haven't seen Inside Out 2 yet, here's your chance. Go see it, and then next week come back and watch or listen to that episode, and we'll talk about it.
And if you haven't watched the movie by the time our next episode is out, shame on you. No. But, like, spoilers. Just don't listen to our episode if you haven't seen it yet. Like,
no, go see it.
Go see
so
it
you
first.
Can listen to our episode. Yeah. No skips.
Just don't blame us if you don't watch the movie and then you listen to our episode and like, you all ruined the movie for me. That's your own fault. Spoilers.
Or, okay, if you haven't seen it by the time our next episode comes out, then put it on mute so that we still get the listen. But you don't get the spoilers.
We want the credit of you listening to our episode the day it comes out, but, like, don't actually listen to it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
All right. I found some things for us to discuss today
Let's
on
go.
Reddit of all things.
We love Reddit.
I found quite a few therapy-related posts. So this one was posted 2 weeks ago in r/ask Reddit, and it says, people who are in therapy, what was the worst thing that a therapist has said to you?
Oh.
So these are not good therapists.
Yeah.
Or therapists that had a moment. I don't want
They had a bad day, a bad advice.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, so this person said, a therapist I had for a while, I was depressed and I was unable to make myself get up and do anything, and my weight had gotten really out of hand. Finally, I started going to therapy and going to a nutritionist for some help getting back in shape, and I started hitting the gym too. I was feeling pretty good about it and even a little proud of myself, which is rare for me. I shared that with my therapist, who was a large woman, not morbidly obese, but she was very heavy. When I told her I was doing all this, she started asking me about why I wanted to lose weight, and then asked me if I had watched the show My 600-Pound Life, which I had never heard of. She went on and on about how the people on that show were heavy, but none of them had had a heart attack. I think I accidentally trod on one of her trigger points, but I really got it both barrels from her about society and weight, all because I wanted to be more active and in better shape, so I stopped going to see her.
Yeah, I think that poster nailed it on the head. I think they might have activated a little bit of a trigger that the therapist had, and so then the therapist kind of went off, as they say.
Yeah. I think as therapists, you can't always predict what people are going to bring to you all the time, even if you have like a initial phone call conversation with them and talk to them about what they're wanting to get out of therapy. Sometimes something else comes up, or you determine that the problem they came in with stems from some other problem, and it might be something that you have dealt with before, and so you kind of have to have thick skin and be able to separate yourself from your problems and your client's problems.
Yeah.
And if you're not expecting that, sometimes it can be kind of hard to...
Yeah, in the moment, especially if it's something that is like particularly triggering to the therapist.
Right.
Something that maybe they're like continually struggling with.
Right. That's why it's important for therapists to go to therapy.
Yeah.
So that,
y'all, if you're a therapist, go to therapy.
Yeah. So that if you get triggered by something, it's not going to impact your job and your client's health, because yikes. This other person said, we wouldn't be here if you just listened to your parents.
Oh, I hate that one.
Yeah.
I'm not unfamiliar with that type of statement either.
Right.
Like, I've heard people say that before.
Yeah.
In one way or another.
Yeah, don't love that. This person said, their therapist said, I'm going through a divorce and I need to work more hours to pay for my lawyer. Let's meet twice weekly.
Oh my god.
Can you pay me more money because I'm going through a divorce?
I mean, there's self-disclosure and then there's self-disclosure of don't do that.
Right. And being open about, like, I want to see you more so that you can pay me more, not because you need more therapy. Like,
that's
no,
unethical.
That's very unethical.
Red flag. Where's the red flag guy?
Yeah, I love that guy.
I do too.
This person said, ooh, trigger warning for conversion therapy.
No.
Ages ago, I did conversion therapy. It left lasting damage. And then I moved to the middle of North Carolina for work and decided real therapy might be a good idea, although I was anxious about it. I checked ahead of time to make sure it wouldn't be religious, emailed, talked to someone on the phone, etc. Second session in, the therapist told me my problem was spiritual, and that's different than religion.
What? What?
Even if you think it is, they specifically said no religion. And then you brought it up anyway. Bad.
Thumbs down.
In a similar vein, trigger warning, religious manipulation.
Okay. Yeah.
You don't need meds. You need to pray harder and submit to your Lord and husband. Ignore those dang fractures.
Oh, I got angry hearing that one. Dang. I have, like, if you, religion and therapy is a tricky thing, but it's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing either. But it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's so tricky that I'm just kind of like, I'm going to be indifferent about it, you know?
Yeah,
in my own practice.
I am not trained at all in religious counseling.
Right.
And I know that's something that people really want, is a therapist who is also a member of their religion and can use that in their therapy sessions. Mm-hmm. But I think it's important that they are also still up to date on current research in the science field that we work in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very, the lines could get blurred really quickly with that kind of a thing. Like if a client tells me that one of their coping skills is they pray or they like meditate on Bible verses, yeah, do that. Mm-hmm. That works for you. Keep doing it. I'm not going to tell you to stop being religious.
Yeah.
Like if that's what is helping you and works for you, then do it. But also, I'm not going to tell a client to pray and submit to their husband. Was that the other part of that?
Yeah, submit to the Lord and your husband, and then you'll feel better.
No.
Yeah, maybe if you get Stockholm Syndrome, you'll feel better.
I mean, yeah. Sounds like that therapist is promoting that. Mm-hmm. I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Mm-mm. Well, here's another trigger warning for child abuse, basically. I started my son on therapy to help him deal with his ADHD and some other issues, which later led to an autism diagnosis. The first therapist we saw literally instructed us to feed him nothing but peanut butter sandwiches and milk every time he disobeyed, and to strip his room down to only a mattress and dresser until he gave in. He told our son we would do all of this so he'd better shape up. He said, I quote, "Your parents are legally obligated to feed and house you. If you only get peanut butter sandwiches, they are still fulfilling their parental obligations to you. If you refuse to eat them, that's on you." Suffice it to say, me and my husband were so horrified, we called the guy a psycho and ended the appointment right then and there. The next day, we got a different therapist.
Wow. That is definitely a case where you report that therapist to their board of certification and get their thing taken from them. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's just one of those things that it's so obviously common sense not okay that it just makes it really nauseating that a professional would do that. Like,
right? And like
unbelievable.
A child therapist? Get out of here.
Yeah. Seriously, get out of here.
Like, I don't know how long ago that was, but like I'm pretty sure that like compliance discipline to that extreme has never been recommended.
No.
I mean, I don't know, but it definitely isn't now.
No. I'm even wondering if he was actually a fully certified therapist or if he was just like a coach, like a parenting coach that had like really extreme, like authoritative coaching techniques. Wow. Yeah.
Coaching is scary to me, and it's not a real thing.
It's very unregulated.
And that's why it's like scary. You don't have to have any kind of degree or credentials. Mm-mm. You can just say like, "Oh, I know a lot about this. I'll be a coach," mm-hmm. and then just start a whole business,
right?
And advertise yourself the same way a therapist would.
Mm-hmm. Which is, it's not a therapist. They're a coach. They might have like life experience or like good advice, but they're not a therapist. They're not a professional, so they don't have that level of like all of the clinical training and all of the required background that you need to be a therapist. They just have life experience.
There's good ones out there, and I know there's barriers to becoming a licensed therapist. Sometimes, mm-hmm. The school and the money and mm-hmm. everything. So I'm sure there's good ones out there, but they also aren't held to the same liability standards that we are, because we have to have insurance and
all
that stuff. And so if they give you bad advice, like, you can't do anything to stop them from continuing that.
They could tell you to feed your kid peanut butter sandwiches only when they're bad, and then they can't get in trouble for it. Oof.
Okay, this person has 2. The first one said, my tattoos are tacky and prove that I'm unreliable. I have 3, all memorials for people that I lost. Only 1 is visible. And the second one, have I found a job to help my mom with bills, and was I ready to move out? I was in my last year of college working on a teaching degree. I bought my own gas and food, paid for my education, and gave my mom half of my paycheck from a part-time job.
What the heck? This therapist sounds like just a parent to them. Like, they're trying to parent this child, basically.
The first one,
Are they 2 separate therapists?
Yeah, 2 separate therapists. Yeah.
The second one sounds like they're parenting their client.
Kind of, but they're like,
weird.
You need to help out around the house. Like, how is that related to their mental health?
Yeah. Also, it sounds like they already are, as much as they can.
They are.
Yeah. Like, that's not the issue. I doubt that's why they're in therapy. And the whole thing with tattoos, you guys, everyone's got them.
Chill out.
Like, calm down.
Yeah. Again, I wonder how long ago that was.
Yeah, that's true. Because, like, I don't know, 10, 20 years ago was different. But now, at this point, like, it's not uncommon to see therapists with tattoos, y'all. We both have tattoos. Like, it's not... There's teachers with like, I don't... What?
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. And my tattoos have never been an issue. A lot of times, my clients like that I have tattoos.
Same, yeah.
Only one time have I had a parent question me about my hair. And it was...
Oh, I used to get that a lot.
Yeah. It was like at the very end of the intake session, he was just like, what's with the purple hair? And I was like...
What's with the attitude?
I like it.
Yeah. It's purple. I like the color purple.
Yeah.
Yeah. I obviously dye my hair a lot.
Right.
And like, so my bio picture on Psychology Today, I have bright orange hair. And so what has been happening to me at intakes with new clients is they come in and they're like, you don't have orange hair anymore. I'm like, oh yeah, that picture was like a year and a half ago. My hair changes colors with the seasons, like, and they're just like, cool, okay, moving on.
Right.
Kids don't care.
Kids definitely don't care.
Teenagers are usually like, they think it's cool. Usually. Sometimes they kind of like judge you a little bit.
Yeah.
But teenagers are judgy. That's part of their identity and self-exploration, which we can talk about later. But
yeah,
the adults are the ones that have problems.
Yeah, I've only had one kid that looked at my tattoo and they were like, why did you do that? And I said, well, because I wanted to. And he said, you should take that off.
Oh.
I think he was maybe 4 or 5. And I said, well, but it doesn't come off. It stays on there. And I think it's pretty. And he's like, okay.
Like, you're allowed to have your opinions, I guess. But if a therapist told me as a client that my tattoos were tacky and that they were unprofessional, I'd probably leave. I'd be done. I'd be like, okay, bye.
Yeah. If our values in those topics differ that much, then there's probably not much you can help me with.
Yeah. Yep. That's a pretty... I, like, can't really explain it, but that's one of those things, like, if someone told me, oh, I think all tattoos are tacky, I don't think people should get tattoos, I'd be like, sounds like we might not be friends.
Yeah.
We might have a hard time getting along.
Yeah. Okay. One more from here, and then I have another one that's for along the same line.
Cool.
This therapist said, just don't compare yourself to other people.
Oh, what?
Just stop, and you'll be fine.
That kind of advice is not advice, my friends. It's like when people are like, yeah, I'm just like been really anxious. It's like telling them, stop. Don't be anxious. Stop
Calm
it.
down.
Why are you so anxious? Stop doing it. No. What?
Look on the bright side.
Ugh. Nope.
If I could do that, I would.
If I could do that, I wouldn't be in therapy.
Yeah.
Also, the bright side is really hard to find sometimes.
Sometimes
it's just not there.
And sometimes it's like, okay, sure, there's a bright side, but like the dark side is much heavier, and it's doesn't make it go away. That there may be some positive aspects to the situation.
Right. I think sometimes looking for the bright side can be like a first step for some people, but in the long run, no, it's not going to cure your anxiety or anything like that. It could be a kind of an easy first step, but it's not gonna fix everything for you.
Yeah. And I know that people probably would get tripped up if they heard like, well, just don't compare yourself to people in therapy. I feel like I would maybe freeze, but I want to come back to that therapist with, okay, how?
Oh,
tell me how. You're telling me this as if it's such an easy thing to do. Tell me how to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
can't.
If your answer is, well, just don't. Okay. Well, you're not helpful at all.
I can't even comprehend how one might just not compare themselves to others.
If it's an automatic thought and it's a habit, you can't just not do it.
Yeah.
It's like biting your nails. You can't just decide one day, oh, I'm just going to stop.
Well, and we as humans just do it all the time. We see someone walk down the street and we're like, oh, they have really pretty hair.
Right.
Then you're like, I wish I had their hair.
Right. Yeah. It's
Stuff
a very
like that.
natural thing to compare yourself to other people. And it's very natural to take it a step further and make yourself feel bad about yourself because you're comparing yourself to other people. So, yeah, it's a process to unlearn that and to learn how to not just stop at the comparison, but to then go further and think like, okay, and what do I have that they don't have? Or is that something that I can attain, and how do I work towards that, or something like that?
Yeah.
Or is it helpful for me to do this comparison right now? Like, that's extra stuff that you can work on in therapy.
That you can learn.
And even if you never stop comparing yourself, at least you'll have a tool that you can do in addition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so this kind of is similar, but it's a different post. Somebody posted on r/talk therapy. I shared a traumatic event with my therapist and got told, next time, don't tell me all at once. So there's a trigger warning for this one for sexual assault. I've been seeing her for 2 years. We've done a lot of groundwork in terms of safety, stability, trust. Last week, I had a memory resurface of a rape I experienced 3 years ago that I had pretty much blocked out. I wasn't even planning to discuss it with her, but there was a word that came up in session today which triggered the memory again, so I chose to tell her about it. Again, sometimes things just come up and you're not expecting them to.
Right.
I felt tense and jittery, but I didn't dissociate, and I just told her what came up as it came up, quite slowly. At the end of the session, she said that what I had shared was immense, and she noted that I had told her all in one go. She said that if other stuff like that came up, not to tell her all at once because she didn't want me to be re-traumatized. I understand the reasoning, but I didn't feel re-traumatized, and I'm not sure why she didn't pause me. I was leaving gaps as I spoke and suggest that I stop or slow down if that's what she was worried about. Now I feel as though I've done something wrong, like shared trauma incorrectly. It's added to my shame. I don't know how I'm supposed to share other things now. I think that therapist did everything wrong in this situation. Because, again, if you felt like it was too much, then stop them and process what you just heard before going on. Or check in and see, like, if you're afraid of them being re-traumatized, check in and see how they're doing.
Yeah.
Especially if it took you 2 years to do the groundwork of building trust and feeling safe, and then you just knocked it all down with that one statement, which is really easy to do. It's hard to build trust. It's easy to ruin it.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, and like I was almost a little bit on board with the therapist, and then they ruined it. But they were just like, the therapist commented on how that was just a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, that's a totally valid thing to bring up as a therapist. Like, I've said that before. But to then be like, next time, don't do that.
Right.
Immediately, they're going to feel, like they said, they felt shame and like they were doing it wrong. And that, yeah. That's not how you go about that.
Right, because you could start it off, like you said, like validating, like, yeah, that was a lot. Mm-hmm. Because to them, it was. Mm-hmm. They lived it.
Yeah.
They lived it all at once. Mm-hmm. So to share it all at once
that's what makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It goes along with how they experienced it. Mm-hmm. A therapist should be ready to take all that information in, just like that other therapist that got triggered about the weight stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to work through your stuff so that you can handle things that people tell you.
Yeah.
And again, if you feel like she needs to not say it so blatantly or all at once, then stop her and process it in pieces.
Yeah. Because it sounds like the poster, the client, gave opportunities for the therapist to jump in and be like, okay, so let's process this last bit you just talked about. Let's go through this again.
Yeah.
Instead of just telling the whole story at once.
Yeah.
Which also, I'm just like sitting here trying to imagine what that would be like, to tell that whole traumatic story in one go and the therapist is just like sitting there. I don't know how I would feel if the therapist just sat there and then at the end was like, yeah, that was a lot. So next time we'll just do a little bit at a time, okay? I'd be like, did you listen to me?
Right.
It's like, I feel like I would not feel listened to.
What I said, not why I said it or how I said it. Yeah. No, I agree with that. Because, yeah. I mean, because I think for a lot of people, if it comes out all at once in that appropriate setting, like, then it needed to come out.
Yeah.
And if it needed to come out all at once and that's not re-traumatizing, then it's probably healing. Mm-hmm. And then you just crushed it.
Yep. Just kind of like dismissed it in a weird way.
Yeah. Because there's not really a wrong way to heal from trauma. There are less healthy ways.
Unhealthy, yeah. There are unhealthy mechanisms.
For sure. But, like, this isn't one of them.
No.
If you need to just spill it with a trusted person, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. So, and then just making the client feel shame when they probably already feel shame about the trauma in the first place and have probably felt shame in past relationships with people because it took them 2 years to build trust.
Yeah. Yeah. That therapist did not handle it well.
Yeah, therapy is the one place where you should feel okay to trauma dump on people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yep. And if you are a therapist and you're not prepared for that, then you gotta work on it. Mm-hmm. You gotta work on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, so those were all things that therapists have done that were not helpful. But then I found this other post from Ask Reddit that said, what's something your therapist said that was life-changing?
Oh, yes. I've seen
nuggets.
Some of these, yeah.
I have quite a few on here, but this one was posted only 2 days ago, so.
Oh, okay.
And it has 5,000 comments on it.
Wow. Oh, that makes me feel, that fills my heart up a little bit. 5,000 people had something to say about that.
Yeah. So here are things. Some of these are more specific to the individual, and some of them are kind of general good advice.
Yeah.
You're going to put yourself in an early grave trying to make your mother happy. Your mother is sick. Trying to make her happy is like trying to fill a bucket that has no bottom. It's not going to happen unless she fixes the bucket, and you can't fix it for her.
Yeah. I like that metaphor.
Mm-hmm. I asked him, how do you process all the negative feelings that are projected at you? And he said, they aren't my feelings.
Oh, yeah. That's a good little shield to put up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one for therapists and for general people.
Yeah.
When I broke down because I was so fed up of being scared and anxious all the time, he said something like, "You can't be brave without being scared first." It always stuck with me that fear, no matter how overwhelming, won't last forever. And I try to see it as a chance for me to prove myself that I can fight back and try to get through this. I really like that sentiment of bravery is not the absence of fear, it's feeling fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah, I've always loved that like quote or whatever. I don't know if it's from anything, but I've always liked that saying. That's a really good one. That's one that should be a poster in my office.
Yeah, I use that one a lot.
Yeah.
With adults, kids, anybody with anxiety. I'm like, bravery is not the absence of fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not every friend has to be a close friend. You're able to have different kinds of friends. That's a good one.
Yeah, especially for teenagers. I feel like teenagers get caught up in the, like, everyone's got to be my best friend and like me kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder.
I really like this one. Change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of the change.
There you go. Yeah.
I really like using the metaphor of growing pains with people because it's kind of a universal experience to have growing pains.
Yeah.
And so I say that growth can't happen without pain.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to change and it's hard to grow, but it's worth it. And then I also like the idea of, I think the change happens when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. Makes sense for your own change, but also if you have that idea of wanting to change other people.
Yeah.
Recognizing that people don't change until they're ready to change. And if the fear or the pain that comes with changing is not as great as the fear or the pain of staying the same, they're just going to keep doing what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you can't grow if you always stay in your comfort zone. So if you want to grow and change, you have to be willing to get out of there, out of that zone of comfort.
Yeah. And that's hard to accept in other people sometimes.
Yeah.
I like doing motivational interviewing as a therapy method, and it's hard sometimes to get out of the mindset of like, but your life will be so much better if you just change.
I know.
And you have to slow down, meet them where they're at, and be like, okay, there's a reason why you would rather stay here than to even think about changing. So let's
deal with that first.
Deal with that. Yep. The anxiety you're feeling is not your enemy. It's an overprotective friend trying to keep you safe because it once saw you hurt. Don't fight it, prove it wrong. Yeah. I like to explain trauma and anxiety as a life-saving response to what your body is perceiving as a life-threatening situation.
Right. Yeah. Like, all of those feelings that you don't like feeling have a purpose. They do have a purpose. It's just sometimes they get to be too much, and that's when we need to deal with it.
Yeah.
But they all have a purpose. Like, if you just lived your whole life feeling nothing but happiness, that's not okay. That's not going to look healthy either, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to have the full range of everything else going on.
This person said, I was discussing with my therapist that although I'm still young, I felt like it was too late to achieve what I wanted my life to be. She very seriously looked at me in the eye and said, "Are you dead?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Then there's time."
Yeah. Yep. That's a good reminder too.
Yep. This person said, as a teen in therapy, I used to call myself a potato because of my ugly appearance. The woman I had sessions with actually gave me a small plastic potato replica and had written on it in Sharpie, "Some people like potatoes." I think it was just the effort she went to try to cheer me up that really affected me and my judgment of professional help. And after that, I took getting help much more seriously. this person's therapist said you have survived 100% of your worst days so far.
I've said that one before.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Don't live as though the thing you fear has happened when it hasn't.
Can you say that again?
Don't live as though the thing you fear has happened when it hasn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fearful of the unknown, basically.
Yeah.
Or like
or
of
kind
the
of
potential.
Yeah, or if you're anxious about like the worst case scenario,
Yeah,
like living as
yeah.
though that worst case scenario has already happened
Mm-hmm.
when you don't know that that's how it's going to turn out.
Right. Yeah.
This is a good general advice for everybody. You can't control others, but you can control how you respond.
Mm-hmm. That is the basis of boundary setting,
Mhm.
honestly. That is like the definition of boundary setting.
Yep. Show the same kindness and compassion to yourself that you show others.
Oh, yeah. I kind of like preach that as part of like self-care
Mm-hmm.
at people. Like, if you want to take care of yourself, you got to be nice to yourself.
Yep. It's hard to do.
It is.
And it's very common that everybody is mean to themselves.
Oh, yeah.
But
Most
would
people are.
never say that to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Your friends should not make you cry.
I will say I have friends that have made me cry, but for a good reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, your friend should not make you feel so bad that you cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This sounds like a specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of like, I have a very close friend who has definitely made me cry like a couple of times when we hang out. So
Mhm.
You know who you are.
If you're more active at night, do what you need to then. There's no rule that everything has to be done during the day.
Yeah,
I like that.
I do too.
I wish that the world was more accepting that people work differently.
Yeah. I tried to force myself into that 9-to-5 work week for so long.
Yeah.
And it's only been the past, I think, almost the past whole year that I have switched to and this is just what works for me, but working like afternoon and evenings, but only like 4 days a week. And that has just completely changed like my motivation. It has changed like how productive I am at work and at home.
Mm-hmm.
I am just not a morning person. I am up early in the morning, but I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want anyone to talk to me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to drink my coffee on the porch and like maybe play a video game or like chill for several hours and then go into work at 1 p.m.
Yep.
That is how I work best.
Yep.
And now that I do that, I am much happier. And I'm a better therapist now too.
Right. Yeah. I would much rather work until 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
after people get off of work and school and see them then than to try to see
Yeah.
them before work and school, because
Yeah.
I am not going to help you at that hour.
Right, yeah. And that's the other thing too, is like I see so many kids and teenagers that they can't see me in the morning anyway because they're at school and I don't want them to miss school. So it just works out, like seeing them after school and in the evenings is just better all around for all of us.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Yeah. And there's so many neurodiverse people. Like, diversity is just a thing
Mm-hmm.
in people's brains, but the world and society is set up for morning people and
Yeah.
like go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 6 o'clock and like then do everything and be productive all day and don't need a break. And
Yeah.
no,
No.
I don't know hardly anybody who can function that way.
Mm-mm.
And a lot of people who can function that way are forcing themselves to, because
That's what I was about
what
to
they
say.
need to do.
I was thinking like of people that I know that are close to me who are like forced to having to do the 9-to-5, 5-day-a-week life, but they have to make themselves do it.
Yeah.
Because that's what their job requires of them,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
No.
Ugh. No, thank you. I'm so glad I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. It's a hard lesson when you work with
Yeah.
neurodiverse kids sometimes to
Mhm.
be like, listen, you have ADHD. The world is not designed for you.
I know.
You have to accommodate and you have to advocate for yourself to get accommodations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry that you are 7 and that you have to learn this lesson.
But
we gotta teach you that the world is not made for you.
Gosh, I hate that so much. Like, they're told all day at school to do things that are completely unnatural for them and make zero sense to how their brain works. And it's like, yeah, dude, the world is literally set up against you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do a whole lot about it because of your brain, but you can tell people, hey, my brain doesn't do that. It does this. Do this instead, and I will be better.
Right. And you can advocate for yourself, and please do that. But also sometimes you have to work harder.
Yeah.
So that you can get the same results as some other kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes they don't listen to you when you tell them you need something.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, it's so hard.
Mm-hmm. This one says, your anxiety doesn't deserve to be ignored, as well as it doesn't deserve to be justified. You can't tell yourself it'll be fine all the time while anxious. That's invalidating your feelings and burying them deeper. You need to tell yourself, maybe this will happen and maybe it won't, because that's what reality is. Life is full of uncertainty, and we need to find ways to accept it, or else you'll drive yourself insane.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of reminds me of just radical acceptance.
Yeah.
Kind of practicing mindfulness, kind of, in the idea that, yeah, this is happening. I am suffering right now, or this really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of acknowledging it and being like, yep, it sucks.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
Yep.
Yeah. Not trying to fix it, but just noticing that it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, again, that is often like a first step towards improving or towards getting better.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being like, oop, I am feeling this way right now. I don't like it. It is happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Just identifying that moment when it happens.
Yeah. I like this one too. The only people in your life who will be angry because you established boundaries were the people who benefited from you not having them in the first place.
Oh, I have heard that one before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I heard that one on TikTok from someone, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If somebody is angry with you because you set a boundary, a healthy boundary, then they are not supportive of you. They benefited from you suffering
without
the
having that
boundary. Yeah. They were getting something out of you that clearly you weren't comfortable with. Otherwise, the boundary wouldn't be there.
Right.
And that is probably the hardest person to set the boundary with, but the one who needs it the most.
Yes. And then in that situation, that person has to decide to change, if they're going to change, or if they're not going to change. And if they don't change, then you hold that boundary, whatever it is, and you remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah, and you have to decide for yourself to follow through with your boundary. Because if you give somebody a boundary and then you don't follow through with it, then it's not a boundary.
Yeah. We really need to do like a how to set a boundary episode.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
It's one of those like psychobabble terms that you hear all over the place, and I don't think anyone completely gets it, and I think a lot of people misuse it or do it incorrectly, I guess.
Yeah. You don't need to please everyone all the time. People who love you will not leave you because you disagree with them or do something they don't like.
Yeah, I've definitely said that to people before.
Right. And most of the time, 9 times out of 10, the people who hear that are not people who are going to hurt people they love on purpose.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They'll be fine. They'll be okay. And you will have a stronger relationship out of it.
We judge ourselves by our intentions, but we judge others by their actions.
Ooh, okay.
I think that's a good one, especially for like family therapy. We judge ourselves by our intentions, so we probably give ourselves more grace because we know that we didn't intend to hurt somebody, but we judge other people by the impact that their actions had.
Yeah.
And it's important to, one, remember that other people's intentions are usually good, but also recognize that even if our intentions are good, the impact can have a bigger weight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, people can't read your mind and know what's going on in there. You also can't read other people's minds and know what's going on in there. The only way you're going to find it out is if you talk about it. Is if you have open communication with them.
Yep.
So you got to do that.
All right. Last one. You deserve to take up space just as much as anyone else.
Yep. That one can be really like hard for some kids to hear. Can be really hard to hear.
Yeah, depending on how you grew up or how you were treated or if you got the message somehow that being quiet was better. Those were some good therapists.
We like them. Okay. I just found a couple r/therapy things. One of them was a thing my new therapist does that I love. So kind of the like thumbs up, green flag therapist things. And then the other one was therapist didn't follow up after I missed a session. Thumbs down, red flag thing. But I want your opinion on both of these because I think they could potentially be maybe more in the middle too. Therapist didn't follow up after I missed my session. I was a no-show today for my in-person therapy appointment. I am very depressed and going through the process of grieving 2 family members, which she is aware of. At our last session, I told her about some serious things in our last session. I said that twice. I guess I'm just confused why she didn't at least send me a message in the patient portal to check if I was doing okay and if I'd like to reschedule. During my 16 years in and out of therapy, I've never felt this insignificant to my therapist. I guess I'm just thinking, what if I was in a psych ward or worse? Wouldn't she be concerned or worried? Is this typical these days? I'm not sure therapy's really for me anymore. Kind of a bummer that they're considering not going to therapy anymore out of that. But
yeah,
what are your thoughts?
Although the therapist may have forgotten or thought, I don't know, just had some sort of thought where they thought, okay, well, it's okay, I'll follow up with them later, or I'm busy and I need to focus on these other things, so even though it sucks that they're a no-show, I'm gonna use this time to do something else. It's still important to follow up with a no-show because of safety and to keep the therapeutic relationship going. And yeah, because things like that can happen, like we were saying before, like it can take a really long time to build trust and it can take a second to knock it down.
Yeah.
So by not following up, it looks like they've really wounded this client. And I hope that if they do decide to go back, that they can bring that up with the therapist and talk about how it impacted them, because that's a thing to work out in therapy. Therapists are human too, and we make mistakes, but we are also, or we should be open to repairing that.
Yes, exactly. And my thought, and someone commented on it too, a therapist commented on it, saying that like sometimes therapists have kind of like a protocol for no-shows or late appointments, and that maybe this therapist's protocol was to reach out and contact them the next day rather than the day of. This therapist in the comments talked about, as therapists, we're trained to be very boundaried in how we go about our work. So kind of the like, maybe that therapist has a boundary of like, after 5 p.m. I don't contact people for work.
Yeah.
Could be a lot of different things like that. I mean, I usually, if a client isn't there within like 5 or 10 minutes of their scheduled appointment time, I reach out to them via like text or phone call. And then if I don't hear from them, I kind of, at the end of the day, will send them an email or a phone call, whatever they prefer. People have different opinions on how they want to be messaged or preferences.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'll just check and be like, hey, missed your appointment. Just let me know if you want to reschedule. Hope you're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my personal protocol of how I do it. I know other people have different ways they go about doing that kind of thing.
Yeah. I usually give them 15 minutes and then I call.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll leave a voicemail if they don't answer.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't hear from them, I will either email or try calling again, usually like just later that week.
Yeah.
But if it's a client that like has a history of depression and has been recently going through a lot, I'm gonna follow up more frequently.
Yes, I agree. Like the people that I see who are like more like high risk for being in harm in some way, I would definitely be more like on top of, I gotta get in contact with them today.
Yeah.
But other people, yeah, like especially if there's, because some people are just kind of like chronically late, or they just like no show at least once a month, then I'm gonna be more relaxed in contacting them.
Right.
But in this case, I feel like the therapist should have reached out that day.
Right. Well,
but also I don't know what the therapist is dealing with either.
Right. Which is why, like, I think it's great that, like, that other therapist in the comments was trying to give some, like, possibilities. Mm-hmm. But it sounds like to the client, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, there's already that, like, rupture in the therapeutic relationship.
Yeah. That,
like, little bit of a crack happening. So that needs to be addressed before anything else can happen, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sad that, like, this one instance is making them feel like, well, maybe I should just quit therapy altogether.
Yeah.
And maybe therapy doesn't work because I got hurt by this therapist. And that does suck. Like, you're supposed to trust your therapist. Mm-hmm. We are human. We're gonna make mistakes. But if you're a good therapist, you're gonna try to fix it.
Right.
So I hope that they give them the chance to try to do that and are honest with them about how it affected them.
Yes. The other one is a little thing my new therapist does that I love. Love is in all caps. I have been in therapy on and off for years, but the new therapist I just started seeing might be my favorite so far for this one reason. They stopped a few minutes before our first session ended to ask exactly where I wanted to pick up the next time we meet. I told them, and they proceeded to give me a preview of some of the questions they will ask first thing in our next session and how they wanted me to prepare this week, what emotions I should be watching out for, actions and thoughts I should be observing, etc., all related to what I said I wanted to talk about. And then they said, ugh, swoon. Maybe I'm the only one, but I've never had a therapist do this for me before. Every session with other therapists would just open with something generic like, how have you been this week? Some people might like that, but for me, I want to talk about specific things. I want to get the work done. So I greatly appreciated my therapist doing this for me, and I told them that. Hopefully they'll be able to follow through on our next session.
I love a client that loves homework.
Me too. It's like, you want homework? I will give it to you. Mm-hmm. I will make homework for you.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Well, yeah, no, I'm going to make it easy homework that's going to be beneficial, but like eventually you're going to have to take what we've talked about in therapy out into the real world if you're going to see any change. Mm-hmm. So even if it's just something like take note of when you feel these emotions.
Yeah, which is often the first therapy homework I give people.
Yeah.
It's like, just notice when you start to feel angry this week.
Yeah, a client who is all about it.
Mm-hmm. We love that.
Client. Yeah.
Gold star.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if myself as a therapist would be as organized as this therapist.
Yeah, I know.
To be able to think that far ahead and be like, okay, what exactly are we going to pick up on in the next session? I could maybe do it with like some clients who are as motivated as this client.
Yeah.
And who have very specific things. Right. But like, well, especially like with kids, like sometimes every once in a while we'll end on something and I'll be like, we're going to pick this up next time and we're going to start with that. Yeah. But
in general,
the kids don't know what's gonna.
Yeah. Kids are just now like kids are they're learning how to put words to how they feel. That is kind of like where kids are at when they go to therapy. Mm-hmm. And that is hard enough for them.
Yeah.
We don't need to give them other kinds of therapy homework outside of that, really.
I do give kids homework a lot of times. I do a lot of sticker charts, and I do a lot of mood trackers.
Oh, yeah.
Or like if they're having anger issues, I'll give them a calendar and I'll say, was your anger big, medium, small today? Mm-hmm. And what was the thing that made you angry, so that we can start going over, because with kids, it's also, they come into the room and I ask them, I'm trying to get information about like what triggers you, or what did you do when this happened, and they don't know. So if I can give them homework and their parents can help them write out like, here's what made you angry today, then it's easier for me to be like, okay, remember when this happened?
Right.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I do give that kind of a homework to kiddos, but that's like parents, caretakers are involved too. Yeah. But in terms of like self-reflection homework, I kind of save that from my teenagers. Mm-hmm. But teenagers really love homework. You guys are crazy.
Sometimes.
The ones I work with, which I will say they're neurodivergent, like very gotta be doing something all the time. Mm-hmm. Gotta keep busy. So you give them something to keep them busy more, and they're like, yes, I will do this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like self-reflective homework and not like a higher level of homework, just like more abstract thinking type stuff. Mm-hmm. Teenagers. I give that to teenagers all the time.
Yeah. If I can think of some homework that they can do on their phone.
Yeah.
Just write this down in your notes app or something like that.
Yeah.
Then that's usually maybe 70% of my teenagers will do it. But sometimes I have to take the L on giving homework to teens, because they already have homework.
Yeah. And yeah, it is harder during the school year. And like, yeah, I tend to try not to give them like journaling homework in the school year. We might do a little bit like in session or over the summer, but during the school year, like if we do any kind of journaling, we might do it in session. But it's mostly like, if I'm going to give them homework, I'm like, I just want you to find 4 things in the next week that bring you joy, and then make a list maybe on your phone, and then bring the list back.
Yeah.
Just like real simple grounding technique type stuff,
Yeah.
Nothing that's gonna be like, I want you to analyze your 4 darkest fears and where they come from and how that fits into the framework of a society that you live in.
True.
Like, we can talk about that in session, but I'm not gonna make you think that way if you don't already think that way. Mm-hmm. Like, we'll just talk about it.
Yeah.
If you want to. But yeah, homework is fun.
And it's helpful for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because then you can practice the stuff at home, and you can bring something specific to work on for the following session.
Yeah.
Which is helpful.
Yep.
Cool.
But yeah, I do like that idea of like checking in at the end of the session, being like, okay, so this is what we're going to do next time I see you. Mm-hmm. I do that with some of my kids.
Yeah.
Some of my like anxious kids who kind of like, if they can anticipate and expect what's going to happen next time, they feel a little better. Mm-hmm. Then we'll make a plan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good idea for some people.
Cool. I'm glad they're loving therapy.
I know. I love hearing that.
Yeah. Cool.
I love those like TikToks of people that are like, oh, my therapist Brenda told me today. It's like, yeah, share that. If you're comfortable sharing that information, share it with people. Let's normalize talking about our therapy experiences.
Yes, and if you talk about it, even if you just write it down for yourself, but if you talk about it, then it's more likely to stick in your brain, and you're more likely to remember it when you need it.
Yes. All good stuff.
Yep. Cool. All right. Should we do our recommendation?
Ooh, yeah.
Corner?
Recommendation corner.
Okay, mine is a TikTok account for parents mostly of younger kids. But I like her because she does little skits where she like pretends that she's the kid and herself, and gives very specific, like, people will comment like, my kid did this, what do I do? And she'll act it out.
That's fun.
With like gentle parenting techniques. So it's very like, you could do this today. You could apply it right now. Hello.
Hey, baby.
We have a friend, Dr. Chelsea Hogue Zavaleta. HAUGE-ZAVALETA.
We tried.
Hoge? No idea. I wrote it down.
Yep.
Didn't even think to look up how to pronounce it.
It'll be linked in the description bio section of this episode as well.
She is on TikTok. She's probably also on Instagram. Hi, buddy.
This is the first appearance of Kitty on the podcast, I think.
I think so. Because they usually get kicked out. Anyway, she's awesome. She's mostly, from what I've seen, most of her TikToks are helpful for littles, like toddlers up to like early elementary school. She's got some stuff for older kids, but it's mostly helpful for little kids.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I like her.
Cool stuff. And then what's her name again? Just spell it.
Dr. Chelsea HAUGE Zavaleta.
We'll figure it out. Okay. So my recommendation is not a therapist or like super therapeutically related, but he is an artist, Devin Rodriguez Art. I can't talk.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Okay.
I just can't talk. Devin Rodriguez Art. I don't know why that name is so hard for me to say. I feel terrible. My last name's Miller. Devin Rodriguez Art. He's an artist based in New York City. And he interviews people on the street and does their portraits while he talks to them. I just watched one where he stopped an individual named Chartreuse, which is one of my favorite colors. I thought that was fun. They were wearing like all chartreuse colored things, which was cool. And they had this really great conversation about like how they each dealt with and processed childhood traumas. They're both artists, so they were both talking about how they use their art for that kind of thing. And then I just went down a rabbit hole watching all of his videos that were on TikTok, and he has some really great like interviews with people. He met the President Joe Biden. Like, he's done some really cool interviews with people, and he does their portrait while he talks to them. It's just very, very cool. It's one of those like Humans of New York type of things where it's just like really cool to see different people, different lifestyles and where they're coming from, and he's very good interviewer and artist.
Yeah. Oh, I always like people like that are just like so good at having conversations with strangers. Just like,
I can't do that, which is funny because I'm a therapist.
I can do it with people who are specifically coming to see me to talk to me. But like I'm not extroverted enough to go up to people on the street and be like, hey, let's talk.
Well, and because like we're therapists, we talk to people, that's our job, but we also like already kind of know why people are talking to us. Versus like this guy, he's just going up to people and like, hey, you have a really cool like aura, can I draw your picture? And then is able to like talk to them about their childhood trauma.
Right? Like, how do you draw that out of people?
Yeah. Some people just like have this aura. They have this like vibe, and they're just so easy to talk to. It's very interesting. But yeah, that's my recommendation. Devon Rodriguez Art.
Cool. Good
on
rec.
TikTok and Instagram. Yeah.
That's the episode. That's what we have to say. If you have ever been to therapy, what was something that your therapist said that you felt was helpful and that you still take with you to this day?
Yeah.
Or if you have any little nuggets of wisdom that you want to share with other people, let us know.
Yeah.
As always, if you have topics that you want us to discuss, the Inside Out
yeah.
review was a suggestion from somebody who listened to our first episode. So
very cool. Thank you.
Yes,
we'll
thank
do
you.
that.
So anything you got for us, we will take it into consideration and probably talk about it, because what else are we gonna do?
Yeah, why not?
And follow us and subscribe and share and all that fun stuff. And anything else?
I think we talked about this at the beginning, but we are on Instagram and TikTok now. Don't have a whole lot on there yet, but go ahead and follow us.
By the time this episode is out, we should have
that's
stuff
true.
on there.
Yeah, that is true. By the time this episode comes out, we will have stuff on there. But yeah, little clips, little the recommendation corner stuff will be posted on there. We'll tag the people in them, that kind of thing.
Yeah, check out the links in the descriptions and stuff. And yeah, take care of yourself.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.